On this fine day, we shall conquer the airwaves, Musa.
On this fine day, ride with me. We have so much. I hope we get through all of them.
People like Jon Stewart can't say that. That's
He's
the price of freedom.
He's
But
cocked.
I remember a time when this country was, when we had freedom of speech and the country was clean.
I remember when I went around Moscow and everything was so clean. Fuck's sake. By the way, brothers and sisters, by the way, is Tucker advocating for massive public spending works to create the biggest and cleanest subway station in the world? Is that what the fuck he's advocating for, Luigi?
No, fuck that.
Fuck that. But he loves the subway, didn't he? He loves the Moscow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, do you want to record this?
I'm recording this, Luigi.
I mean, let's go in, sir. Let's go with our pants down and our chins up.
The Scottish way.
Let me bend over my kilt.
For freedom. The original freedom lovers. Never got it yet, folks.
It's coming.
Fighting for that sweet freedom, which I think is the way to go. Because when you get the freedom, suddenly everybody starts having guns everywhere. It doesn't work. It's better to chase the freedom forever, Luigi, than to finally grasp it. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean,
we go very deep, very quickly.
It's like a dog. You know, it's better. It's always preferable to chase the ball. It's not fun when you catch the ball. It's like
ask any dog, people. Yeah. Any dog will vouch. Any. So we get right to it, Luigi. Because we have far too much to get through, and we have to get through all of it. So we have to
be like fucking ninjas, samurai warriors today of the news.
Yeah. And I wanted to start immediately because last time we gave Jon Stewart our unqualified endorsement. So now we have an obligation to keep an eye on what he's we have an obligation to keep an eye on what he's saying, right? Because our endorsement, Luigi, has to count for something.
It carries tons of weight. Global leaders discuss the fact that they have been endorsed by radio. No, we haven't endorsed anyone.
We haven't yet, but they're coveting it. It's basically an appearance at the Bros podcast and an endorsement by Radio Rocketman. And our endorsement is basically as high of quality as a Nintendo seal of approval. As the Nintendo seal of approval used to be 20 years ago. That's how fucking high quality we are.
Even Nintendo has descended.
Entropy, Luigi. It happens to everything. So we find ourselves. Let's get right to it. So it has to count for something. So I'm keeping an eye on what he's saying. So we find ourselves with a new section for our show. We're going to call it "Keeping Up with Jon." So did you watch his third episode? It was on a very controversial topic for the United States, Israel-Palestine. The reason I've never framed it as Israel-Palestine, and specifically I don't use the word Palestine because I don't even want to inadvertently confuse people as to the nature of the conflict. Because someone might just read the title and be like, it's the Palestinians and the Israelis that are killing each other.
It's a war.
It's forever.
It's not really a war.
And by saying Israel-Palestine, it gives off the idea that these two groups are more equitable than they are in reality. Because in reality, the problem is that there is no Palestine. And then that's the problem. That's why I refrain from calling or framing the conflict in that way.
Also, the balance of power is so lopsided in the direction of Israel that not only is bigger economically and militarily, but is supported by the world's sole superpower. So there's no comparison between the two. Calling it a war implies that both sides have a chance, and that's not really the case for the Palestinians.
Now, on to my minor critique of Jon's segment. And first of all, I would like to say that I love that he did the segment. I found myself agreeing to it mostly. Just have a few points of contention, Luigi. One, I didn't like him. I didn't like him offhand mentioning that Egypt won't accept Palestinian refugees. Mainly because I'm against Palestinians being turned into refugees in the first place. I feel the ire towards the issue of Palestinian refugees should be more so directed on the guys turning them into refugees, and not because on some Arab nations for not accepting them. And anyone who believes that the Palestinian refugees will ever return to their occupied lands in Israel
I've
once
got a few
driven
bridges
out,
to sell
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I sort of understand why Egypt draws a red line. And
Look,
furthermore, yeah,
wait.
go on.
Hold on. The displacement of the Palestinians and the fact that it shouldn't happen is one thing. A secondary reason Egypt won't accept refugees is, let's say you take in like 200,000 refugees. If at some point in the future there's like a strike against Israel from the borders of Egypt, well, you can bet that Israel is going to reply back. So that basically means that any Egyptian leader that takes in Palestinian refugees is almost signing off like a future attack on his own country, a
It would
retaliatory
be
attack.
you would be a fool, yeah, not to believe that countries do not make these political calculations. But certainly this has been also been accounted for. And I agree, by the way, with Jon. I 100% agree that Arab states should do more. And by that I mean Saudi Arabia, obviously. I don't mean Egypt. Egypt is a deeply impoverished country,
Yeah.
barely holding internally, barely holding
Mm-hmm.
together. So forget about Egypt, right?
Having passed one of the largest crises like in
Forget
recent
about
history.
Egypt
Yeah.
helping economically. That's what I wanted to hear. So it's important to be specific about which countries we want to help. Saudi Arabia, of course, which Jon pointed out in
Yeah.
his monologue.
Jordan can play a big role.
Yeah, yeah. And it's important also to note within that discussion that Egypt and Saudi Arabia, they're all US client states. I think that's another degree
Mm-hmm.
of complexity that Jon did not elaborate on. Maybe he didn't have time, whatever. I'm just pointing it out. It's important to consider this. And I'm not saying that Chainsaw Mohammed is in lockstep with Jack, but because we've seen that in the past few years, there's been a bit of a bit of a strain in that relationship. But it's still important to note that there's a relationship. There's history, there's context, there's leverage.
Of
And the
course. It
second,
goes
yeah,
beyond
go on, please.
leaders.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
transcends leaders. I
100%.
mean, just like the relationship between
Less
the
so,
US
I
and
would
Israel.
say. Less so, I would say, though, in the United States. In the United States, it transcends. I mean, less so in Saudi Arabia because that leader is going to be there for fuck knows how long. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. They
It's a
don't
bit
really
of.
change leaders. But yeah, I mean, it's the same with the US relationship with Turkey, for example. It's almost regardless of whose leader, the ties are so deep and the interests, the mutual interests are so strong that
The
yeah, you
strategic
can.
in the
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And my to finish my critique, or more so my critique is centered on this part of the on the interview that he released between with the two journalists, the Muslim journalist and the Jewish journalist.
Who are apparently good friends.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
feel that Jon, within the interview that he conducted, I feel Jon downplayed America's involvement and leverage in this conflict, even though he himself, throughout his main monologue, went to detail on all the ways the US is aiding and abetting this conflict by giving weapons, by vetoing resolutions at the UN. So I was slightly annoyed with the fucking magic wand stick that he went on at one point. And
Look,
I have to say, I pretty much agree with the Muslim journalist's analysis of the situation. I thought it was great.
yeah,
But that's it.
I
I'm very glad that Jon made the episode. Very good.
look. I mean, obviously, the US's role in this conflict should be stated at every step of the way, right? But I mean, John is also talking to an American audience, so maybe that sort of limits how much
My
emphasis you
person,
can put on that. Hmm.
sorry, my personal opinion is I think that Jon, the way I see it, obviously I don't know Jon in any capacity, but I feel that this issue is the one he feels most uncomfortable with tackling, and he still tackled it better than most. I think most of them haven't
Better
even
than
tackled
anyone.
the issue, right?
Hmm.
I don't think Stephen Colbert has even done anything
Not at
extensive
all.
on this. Yes, exactly. I think John Oliver did. Haven't watched John Oliver's work. John Oliver is pretty good as well. Not gonna lie. I would prefer him on YouTube as well, so more people can watch him.
John Oliver
Fuck,
had
fuck
a
HBO.
John Oliver had a great piece on the Supreme Court recently, and he basically covered what we covered in previous episodes about Justice Clarence Thomas and the gifts he's been receiving and whether, he's impartial or not.
A
And
disturbing situation if I've ever seen one for a country
Mhm.
that prides itself on an independent judiciary.
I mean, you put 9 people in the Supreme Court, like for positions of life. Like the position is for life. What do you think is gonna happen? Like,
And the
why do we
funny
have
thing
term
is,
limits in everything else?
the funny thing, Luigi, is that they made it for life so that they wouldn't be corruptible, is the
Yeah, but
thing.
it does the opposite, it turns
It
out, especially
didn't
when you
work
don't
out.
pay, especially when you don't pay those people an ungodly amount of money so that they're truly incorruptible. I mean, yeah,
It's an
they're gonna.
idea. It's an idea you've got. Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
a
a
great
lot of
idea. By the way,
money. It's a lot
Singapore.
of money they get, but it's not. It's not at the highest. Yeah, it's not
It's
the
not like
highest
you're
peaks.
not gonna make a fortune
It's not at
being
the
a.
highest peak. I mean, comparatively, it is a fortune. We have to be honest with the vast majority of Americans. But still, there are far higher peaks to be achieved in the American economy. Yeah. How much is it? 300K a
Let me
year?
find it.
300. I think it's about
275,000 per year, which is a really, really good
for
salary,
for most
even in the US.
Americans, it's astronomical. That's what I wanted to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
at.
of course. But wait, we're comparing it with what that lawyer could have made had they had a private practice, had they been in a big legal office. It's probably in the millions per year, right? So they are sacrificing a salary.
it
Yeah.
could be higher. It could be higher if that guaranteed that they wouldn't be that fucking corrupt. They wouldn't be that. They wouldn't showcase such appearances of conflicts of
Mhm.
interest all the
That's
fucking time.
That's the Singapore model, by the way. Singapore has been a
And
global
the, and
example
the
in this, in paying their politicians in enough so that they don't want to be corrupt. Like there's no point in being corrupt if you already make more than you're gonna spend. So, and salaries
should we get yeah.
salaries of Singaporean ministers
My
just
God,
to.
we're at Singaporean minister salaries, Luigi, and we had to go fast.
Dude, it's above 1 million. It's like 5 times what the Supreme Court
You're
justice
talking
makes
about
in the
US
US.
dollars? Are you talking about
Yeah,
dollars? Wow,
yeah.
wow,
So
wow.
that's how you do it. I think that like in the very high echelons of government, go big.
Dude,
Yeah.
people, Luigi presents a very valid idea. We'll have to look into it more further on,
Let's go.
into the next
We are
podcast
pressed
and
for
beyond.
time.
Yes,
Let's
yes.
go.
Let's start with something silly to warm up, Luigi, as is customary now. Did you
That's
hear this?
the one true plan. Yeah.
Did you hear what the great European leader,
Oh,
the
oh,
one,
Emmanuel. Oh,
Emmanuel, he comes out with his bullshit every couple of months, right? Did you hear what he said?
no.
That he will not has raised criticism and warning after he suggested it might be necessary to send ground troops to
Oh, yeah,
Ukraine.
I saw that.
Yeah, and he's talking about European ground
Send
troops.
ground troops, send European soldiers to Ukraine, basically. Putin, I think, replied to that with something along the lines
The
of,
classic.
da, comrade, we have nuclear weapons.
Da,
And you're
comrade,
like,
you forget our nuclear weapons are many and bountiful.
yeah, something along those lines.
Which I mean, and I think Putin goes on about the nuclear thing because
By the way,
he sees there's a response by Tiger, and everybody likes to cling on that. Putin likes to threaten nuclear weapons, is what I'm saying. But even this time, I wouldn't even blame Putin for being like, he sends French troops. There might be nuclear, right?
I mean, there's already French troops. There's
Uh,
already European troops in Ukraine,
As far as I can tell,
but not officially.
US,
Mhm.
UK, and French special forces in
Exactly.
limited
And
capacities.
Americans as
Of
well.
course, US. Yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
you're so sorry. Yeah.
the leaders of the free world.
I'm reading here that the French Foreign Legion released all of its legionnaires. By the way, I love this kind of stuff. A legion. We have a legion in
Le,
2024. How
un
cool.
légionnaire, mon ami.
Oh. But
They
yeah,
kill only because they have to.
they are gentlemen and scholars, except for killers.
Scholar, so yes.
The French Foreign Legion has released individual Ukrainian legionnaires from their contract as the war began. So that's,
But he
I
was talking
guess,
he was talking about ground troops. He
he
means
was talking in an official capacity. Yeah,
yes, yes, and an army. And I mean everybody completely. I mean, Scholz was like, fuck
lost their
no. No,
minds.
I'm not gonna say lost their mind. Everyone's like, fuck no.
Look, I
The
think it's a
Germans were
pointless.
like, maybe he should pay, maybe he should give more arms to Ukraine. And you
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
that
yeah,
he,
yeah.
he was criticized because it came out that he's given about, I would say, less than a billion. The Germans have given second most amount after the United States, 17 billion or so to Ukraine in
Yeah,
weapons.
dude, what are we discussing exactly? Like the Ukrainians don't have a shortage of soldiers; they've got a shortage of weapons.
Yeah, even the Ukrainians were like, we want no soldiers, we want weapons.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a huge
That's
country with
why
a
we
large
had it in,
population.
yes, Louis, that's why we had it in the funny section because Macron
The
is
fun. Oh,
being a fucking doofus again.
Emmanuel does an oopsie.
But we will agree with the Germans on this, who were like, just send more arms.
Yeah,
Should we? Let's move
let's keep
on.
going.
Oh, this is funny as well. Let's have a double funny. He gave a really stupid speech at CPAC. There were a
The
couple of
orange, the orange leader.
the orange menace. But he gave a speech. By the way, there were Nazis at that CPAC. It came out. A couple of people
And
were
some, I assume, are good people. Could quote
you
Trump himself.
you know it, you know it.
Yeah.
A proud promise Judgment Day. He says something really stupid as well about his. There you go. By the way, isn't this better than reading of a freaking teleprompter? The crowd cheered. Nobody can ramble like this. They'll say he rambled. He's cognitively impaired. Well, it's really the opposite. It's total genius. You know that.
Wow. He
Wow.
needs to comedy immediate. Like he needs to stop running for president and just sell stadiums doing comedy.
What I do, Luigi, with my mouth hole and my tongue and my brain has never been done before. Even melanoma, the
I'm the high
beautiful,
functioning candidate.
even melanoma, the beautiful first lady, who, let me tell you, is not my best critic. Even she came up to me after the speech and she was like, wow, Donald, what do you do with your mouth? It's incredible. Incredible. Some might even call it genius, Luigi.
It's total genius. It's like you take a genius and then you multiply it with another genius and you find
Wow.
total genius.
Gee, I like to call it genius squared. I came up with that. Like I came up with fake news. Everybody remembers I called it that.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
he's a joke. He's a joke. He soundly defeated Nikki Haley in South Carolina. Her home
yeah,
state has to be
and
quickly get
has to be
through
said,
that.
and we have to also highlight that in the coming week we're gonna have Super Tuesday, which is that's like 15 states voting, biggest
That's
voting
that's
in.
probably gonna be her killing blow. That's
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
gonna be.
That's where Nikki drops off. She suffers a shellacking as it was on Super Tuesday, and she probably drops out of the race unless her donors really desperately want her to stay in for some reason that escapes me at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even see that because we're gonna get to his court cases. The court cases are after the primary, so I don't get how her staying is doing anything, to be honest, at this point. I mean, it's pretty
Well,
much proven that the
honestly.
Republicans are gonna vote for Trump. At least 60% of
Okay,
Republicans, at
so
the very
so
least.
the calculation might be the following. So I mean, you're absolutely right. Trump has the Republican Party locked in completely. He's the king of
He
the
proved it.
Republicans.
He's
Yeah,
proven it.
he owns the party, but I mean, Nikki might be there as a hedge, like as a hedge against maybe Trump isn't able to run for some reason. At the end of the day, something unforeseen happens with his legal troubles.
But you mean in the general then?
Yeah, I mean.
But by then,
Nikki,
Trump is
mhm,
gonna win the primary nomination. Nikki, even if she stays all
most
the
likely.
way, so that's what I'm
She's
not. So I'm gonna bet
yeah,
that Super Tuesday is gonna be the last we hear of Nikki because it doesn't
most
make
likely.
sense
Most
for
likely, it doesn't make
donors.
sense for her to be running still, honestly. So why wouldn't she stay in for
She
another month or
announced, I
so?
mean, after losing her home state, she announced she will stay. So
The funniest part about this primary is I heard that in the latest voting round, in the Democratic Party, Marianne Williamson, like the, I don't know, sort of an independent almost candidate that runs every time in the Democratic primaries.
you've been very ambivalent with Marianne, Luigi. I have noticed it.
She's
Even though you
like
agree with most of her policies, there's something about her that is not convincing you, right?
I don't like her delivery. Her delivery gives me the sense of a person that just wants to sing Kumbaya and, smell the flowers. She looks like a 60s kid. And you're like,
When she said the thing at the debate, I still remember that. It's fucking etched in my brain. Do you remember when she said, I'm gonna meet him, I'm gonna defeat him with the power of love? I was like,
yeah,
she's done. She's
babe,
done.
exactly,
She's done.
exactly.
Case
So
closed.
that candidate, like wait. Like
Sorry.
this week, she suspended her campaign.
And
Then she
she
got news.
unsuspended it. Yeah.
Yeah, she got news that she was the second candidate, like behind Biden.
Third, actually, she was the third. She just defeated Dean Phillips because we had the uncommitted
Okay.
vote. We're gonna get to it. She fucking
Yeah,
came
yeah.
third, Luigi. And
Yeah,
by
she came here and unsuspended her
yeah,
campaign. She came
yeah.
back.
I think it's sort
You,
of become a joke at this point. I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, you have to love it. You are either committed or you are, I'm running. No, I'm not running. Nah, just kidding on the last one. It's like,
And if I can be, if we started being brutal with people that some would argue that we agree more with their policies, the 100% of more fucking Jack
so
Biden is doing
can
it.
still make
But
fun of them.
100%. And if we can be brutal, I mean, Cornel West didn't exactly run a stellar campaign as up to this point.
Brother Cornell.
I'm sorry, brother. But I mean,
Brother
you
Cornell.
started with the fucking People's Party of fucking Nick Brana and fucking whatever. I'm not even going to get into it. And then Greens and now Independent. And I'm like, brother
Brother
Cornell.
West just wanted to like do the town halls and talk to people and preach.
He
I
does an
don't think
awful
he was
good
seriously
preach.
running. Oh, he's the
He's
best
trying.
preacher.
Last I heard, Luigi, he's trying to get on, yeah, on quite a few on states, on some states. He's gotten on a few. He's trying to get on others. It's very complicated. Every state has its own fucking criteria.
Yeah, another thing you need to understand, like I don't know, the debates are essentially gone, right? We
That's
got
not
a
gonna
few
be it. Yeah.
Republican debates. We never got a single like Democrat debate. Why
No,
is
no,
that?
because the
Well,
Democrats are not very democratic. It appears, Luigi.
dun
We
dun
seem to
dun
have put dun dun
dun.
dun. The
You
plot
are making it
thickens.
obvious, George.
I remember when Bernie was threatening Obama,
Brother
when
Bernard.
Brother Bernard was threatening Obama, who wanted to cut welfare, make a deal with the Republicans, and
Mhm.
Bernie was threatening him with with somebody running against him and challenging him on the second run. And they fucking went apeshit on Bernie.
Seriously, he broke ranks. That's the benefit, though, of being an independent the whole time, right? And just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
caucusing with the Democrats. In any case, do you
But they're not
wanna?
particularly democratic, not gonna lie, the Democrats.
The Democratic Party is the least democratic party like around. Just think
That
of the
call, that
2016.
call, yes, 100% Luigi, can I add on? They're the least democratic party that call themselves a democratic party.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Possibly.
It's like being an
I,
ex-Soviet republic and having the
I'm getting
like
flashes of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, whatever.
yeah, exactly. That's
Possibly.
exactly it.
Possibly the least democratic party that calls itself democratic.
I
But
mean,
of
2000.
course, when you're faced against the ultimate shithead, we've got him right on our screens. I mean, you end up being more democratic by default, people.
Yeah, when you compare yourself to semi
This.
to borderline fascism, yeah,
Yeah,
they're slightly more
100%.
democratic.
So we will save the soul of America. Will we? It's 50-50, right? Let's see.
It's not 50-50. It's like 70 or 80% Trump at this point.
You
But yeah,
think
let's keep
so,
going.
Luigi? I think so. Okay, let's keep discussing this, and we'll talk about this as we move along. And then
Jack,
after South Carolina, Jack,
Jack,
what happened, Jack? What happened in Michigan?
Jack.
You remember Michigan? You remember it? It's not Pennsylvania, Jack. Biden wins Michigan primary, but something happened in this primary, Luigi. The uncommitted vote did exceptionally well
Oh,
with
wow, that's what you meant. Okay.
101,000 votes. I mean, going to the polls for a primary that Joe Biden is obviously going to win, and 101 fucking thousand people going to vote uncommitted, 13% of the vote. I think it sends a message. Yeah, there we go with Marianne. She won Dean Phillips, which I guess is a victory, some sort of victory.
Dean Phillips tweeted something to the effect of like, if you think I'm like if you think it's bad that I'm staying in the race and that I'm blocking Biden's path, in fact, like I'm making him look really good. Look at his percentages. Something along those lines.
Jesus Christ. But the uncommitted vote was a protest vote, and it was Michigan has one of the largest Arab American populations, important to note. So, and it was a protest vote because of the continued support for Israel's war in Gaza, Biden's, which signaled the fury and betrayal of some Arab American. But it wasn't just Arab Americans, obviously. You had 100,000 out of a pool of about a million. 700,000 votes.
800,000, yeah.
It was also a lot of younger voters making their feelings known to Biden. And I've got numbers here, Luigi. I've got the previous election results just to showcase that 100,000 is a lot. For example, last time with Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, we had 20,000. 20,000 is usually the uncommitted vote. Apart from when Hillary in 2008, uncommitted was 200,000, and that was because Obama wasn't on the ballot. It was in response to that.
Okay.
So you see that it's 20,000 thereabouts.
Why was the good president not on the ballot?
Fuck no. I don't remember what kind of shit bagger the Democrats pulled off then.
The least democratic party.
So you see, it's usually 20,000. So at 100,000, this seems to be, I mean, 5 times more. It's certainly not negligible.
Whatever. I mean, it's not even close. It's just them letting Biden know that their vote isn't locked in.
I guess that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Which, I mean, I think Trump won, Michigan won. I mean, with Hillary, I think it was by 10,000 votes. So, I mean, 100,000. If these people are seriously committed to staying uncommitted unless Joe Biden changes course regarding Gaza and enabling Israel, then he loses Michigan. And that's fucking crucial.
That's it, Jack.
That's it. That's curtains close. And to be fair, I don't even know if I think Jack is ideologically so disposed towards this shit he's doing with Israel that he's willing to lose the election for it, honestly, man, at this point.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Then let's pray that this has an effect then. Sorry, Luigi.
I think by the time we get to the general election, Jack is gonna solve at least one of the two wars.
You're right. It's important to know because we're in the midst of this and we're getting affected by the human suffering that's happening on a daily basis. Jack, being a bit more of a psychopath, let's say, looks at the long-term picture and he knows there's still time until the election to do shit.
Yeah, and it's probably better to do it like right before the election, maybe a month beforehand or so. Just so it's still fresh in memory, in a sense.
Yeah, and did you hear right before the vote when he was having ice cream, Jack, and he came out with
I love ice cream.
There's gonna be a ceasefire.
Wow.
Next Monday, Jack.
By the beginning of the weekend. I mean, end of the week.
At least my advisor tells me we're close. And then, I mean, immediately Hamas and Israel pour cold water on Biden's hope of immunity. I just mentioned this, I hope he didn't do this just to dampen the uncommitted vote right before the Michigan primary. Well, I hope he didn't just come up with bullshit.
Old man Jack.
Still got a trick up my sleeve.
Exactly. That's
I
exactly it.
hope. But yeah, do you think there's gonna be a ceasefire, Luigi, anytime soon? Who knows,
Yeah,
right?
I think there's gonna be a ceasefire, but the ceasefire doesn't mean this ends. It's just a temporary sort of.
Yeah, and I mean, whatever is happening is tragic.
Let's. I mean, we've discussed it extensively. It's beyond
Yeah, and
description.
even today there was an aid track, an aid convoy, and it got swarmed, I think, by Gazans, and Israeli military started firing on them. It's beyond a catastrophe at this point. And Jack thinks there's gonna be one by Monday. We'll see. I doubt it. I doubt it, Luigi. I will see. Yeah. And I mean, the situation I mentioned, it's an ongoing situation that's happened today. So you're getting conflicting reports. But I mean, the gist of it is obviously they might have sworn. I mean, these people have been starved at this point of food, and they might have sworn the convoy with the aid, and the Israeli soldiers started firing on them. The gist of what has happened. It's obviously this situation, it cannot continue. But the long run, you've mentioned it, Luigi. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what Biden is doing at this point. I mean, he just got five times the amount of uncommitted votes, who actually fucking moved their asses to the fucking polls to vote in an election that doesn't count, that Biden is obviously gonna win, just to vote uncommitted.
Yeah,
And
I think they've convinced Biden like there's nothing really he can do to strong arm Bibi
come on,
into
dude.
into
He's
doing it.
not he's not that fucking senile, let's be honest,
I
Luigi.
don't know.
They're
I'm not
giving them
sure.
weapons. They're vetoing resolution. I mean,
Yeah,
they're proactively, the thing is, they're proactively aiding them. If it was something that was passive, but they're proactively doing shit, which means that's where they side, to be honest with
yeah.
you. Yeah, but fuck knows. Fuck knows. Should we move on to lighter affairs?
Lighter affairs is what we like.
Well, this is court watching. I mean, half of this shit. I mean, next year, let's be honest, if it's gonna be American,
Donny, Donny versus the
Donny,
law, part.
Donny V, the law, part 1075. He does brag about it, by the way. I've been taken to court more times than Al Capone. I don't know what kind of brag is that. I'm not gonna lie, Luigi. I'm like, is he bragging that he's more of a fucking mafia
It's
boss?
a witch hunt.
But it wasn't with Al Capone.
The witch hunt.
They're hunting us like witches. But we had an update. So we're doing the court. I mean, what I was gonna say was
Donny
that
around the courts. Yeah.
half our time going forward is going to be concentrated. Half of it is going to be on the election and primaries and general and whatever. And the other half is going to be about his fucking court cases, which are going to be endless. And we've got an update on Jack Smith's case. It's one of the most important cases, that and the Georgia one. That has also, we've discussed it last time.
Yeah,
So,
where the prosecutor and the defendant
forget
were.
about it. Forget
Yeah.
about it. It's fact. So we got this.
Literally. It's a literally fact. Like the
They fucked it,
lawyers
folks. They fucked it.
were fucking. So a possible sort of
We have to be
act against the
uncouth.
government, an insurrection case might fall apart because two people couldn't keep it in their fucking pants.
Possibly. So yeah, so we've got the federal one now, prosecuted by Jack Smith, appointed by Merrick Garland, and the Supreme Court has agreed to hear Trump's immunity claim, which is a bullshit claim, but Trump is stalling. I don't think you have to be a genius to realize that Trump is doing this to stall for time. But the US Supreme Court has agreed to take up the unprecedented claim that Donald Trump has absolute immunity from prosecution. And just to, yeah, when in his capacity. At the heart of the Trump legal team, of the legal team's filing, was the extraordinary contention that not only was Trump entitled to absolute presidential immunity, but that the immunity applied regardless of Trump's intent in engaging in insurrection, in the conduct described
Yeah,
in the
obviously.
indictment.
Yeah, okay.
Which, I mean, I don't think even his lawyers expect that this is going to win any court. Let's discuss this. What do you think the
So,
Supreme Court is going to rule on this?
I mean, judging them by the composition of the court, you
It's a
have to
pretty
say,
bad composition.
yeah, it's mostly Republican leaning at
Ah,
this
by the
point.
way, we're going to
Mhm.
get to why it's such a bad composition. Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Wow, wow.
But
The
yeah,
turtles
it's
are
a
coming. Mhm.
Luigi, I gotta be honest, even as bad as the Supreme Court currently is, and it's the worst I think I've seen it, definitely in my fucking lifetime, I don't think they're gonna rule in favor of Trump on this. I don't think they're that insane because theoretically, at that point, you can order, I don't know, SEAL Team 6 to murder a political opponent, and you've got
Exactly.
immunity.
Exactly. You've
It's
got
fucking
immunity against
ridiculous.
everything.
You got
So
immunity
yeah,
against everything, exactly. But
yeah,
which I think even his lawyers knew that they are gonna fucking stall for time. That stalling has been the tactic. Ideally, after the
because
election. Ideally,
yeah,
getting the whole thing after the election, because the federal one goes away immediately. In a fucking mockery of democracy, you're gonna appoint your own attorney general, and he's just gonna dismiss the case because it's a
yeah.
federal case, and you're in
And
charge of the
even
federal system. But putting the case on hold was important, even beyond the election. Yeah, the involvement now means the case continues to remain frozen until the justices issue a ruling. I mean, everybody fucking prays they're not gonna go fucking insane with this. There are a couple of insane ones on the Supreme Court, as you've rightly mentioned. So let's fucking hope we don't get SEAL Team 6 assassinating people. Even if the court rules against Trump, the case
Trump's
may
presidency part two.
but until the case might be delayed until late into the summer or beyond, because
Wow.
he's got preparation time, the 87 days remaining, so it might be pushed until late September at the
At the
earliest in
earliest.
the
Wow.
worst case scenario for Jack Smith. So I mean, this is gonna go right fucking down to the wire, Luigi. I mean, it can work out a lot of ways, right? One way is it's right before the election,
Mhm.
and he gets a lot of bad publicity, I think, because I don't think it's a good look for one of the two candidates going to try for engaging in insurrection.
All
The,
publicity is good publicity.
I mean, if anyone can spin it, but I don't know, Luigi. I don't know, even the Almighty's powers can go that
Yeah,
far.
yeah.
But by the way, in that scenario, I don't even know if he gets indicted before or after the election. I don't know how long the trial is going to take exactly. I mean, this is a trial; things might come up.
Yeah. And I mean, the election is in
My
November. He
God,
takes
dude,
office.
it's
He
November.
takes
It's
office
early
in January.
November. So
He takes office
imagine
in
there's a
January, though.
Exactly. There's a scenario where he becomes the president elect and he gets indicted.
Yeah. Wow.
It's beyond fucking ridiculous, man.
Stress testing the legal
Wow.
system. Here we go.
It's amazing, right? I mean, it's gonna be a circus show. I mean, whatever happens, but
It's already a circus show,
yeah,
Prado.
yeah.
We're gonna get into the final act.
We're gonna get into one heck of a fucking final act, yeah. And fuck me, dude. I mean, ideally, I would think he wants it to be right after the election, and there's still a possibility that might happen. Most likely, it's gonna be before. Nobody knows if the trial will finish before the actual election, but most likely the trial will start before. And going back to everything, I want to be specific. I don't blame Jack Smith. Jack Smith has been appointed to do this. I blame Merrick Garland, who's the fucking attorney general, and he should have. This case should not be going to the fucking wire with an election. Jesus Christ! I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna be the
Should have,
biggest stress
should have
test that's ever
happened a long time
happened.
ago.
It's bad, isn't it? Do you
It's
think?
it's getting worse progressively.
And
Uh,
we've got other cases, Luigi. We've got we've
mhm.
got we've got the New York Attorney General. Let's come out and say that she's gonna seize the fucking assets if he fails to pay the endless amount of money, the 355 mil, the big ones,
The
fraud fine,
meals.
the
Wow.
mills. If he does not have the funds, then we will seek judgment enforcement mechanisms. And I look at 40 Wall Street each and every day. Oof.
Wow. Ooh.
Oh, and he
Nice.
came out. He came out with
And they
he,
threatened to take our buildings.
My home, where my children live,
I
where
built it
Eric and
with my
Donald
own
Jr.
hands.
play with their Legos every day. My children, Luigi.
I laid the first brick.
My daddy, Fred, he built it himself.
Yeah,
He
so
could do
don't.
with his hands what I do with my mouth hole.
uh,
He's offered to pay 100 million out of the 454 million. A New York appeals judge has denied Donald Trump's request to pay just 100 million. They've updated it.
we covered it last episode. Trump is selling sneakers now. He's selling a cologne as far as I saw. So yeah, Trump Enterprises will get the money.
He also has the option, which he has now exercised, to ask the appeals court to grant a stay with a bond for a lower amount, but he's been denied that request. How many sneakers do we have to sell? It's $400 each. That's a good amount for a sneaker.
So I don't know.
I've got
Yeah, a million sneakers will do it. A million sneakers.
Keep on rocking in the free world. And you've got a couple of court cases, Donny. They might come close to the election. Keep that in mind as well. Have you
We're
ever
gonna
seen
find.
an election like this? Honestly, now.
But Michael, I mean, honestly,
Have you ever?
we we we
One
dwelled,
guy eats
we
ice cream.
we descended into the realm of the bizarre in 2016, and
Through
now
the
we are
looking
going
glass.
fucking
Yeah.
supernova.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So let's finish up. Let's finish up, Luigi, with something fucking bizarre as well. German minister says she clapped Israeli filmmaker, not his Palestinian colleague. By the way, before we look into the story, look at this title, dude. I mean, what the fuck?
Wow.
What in the flying fuck is this shit,
I don't know.
Germany? This is just racist, dudes. I didn't clap for the filthy Palestinian, yeah? I clapped for the glorious Israeli.
Well, I don't see the bias you're referring to.
And we're talking, if I can give some context, these two are colleagues, the Israeli and the Palestinian colleague, yes, of course, filmmaking duo, one of the major awards, and had a speech, and both of them basically called for a political solution to end the occupation. And she clapped. And because, they called for a political solution to end the occupation, which is basically anti-Semitism in Germany. And there was such a reaction in German political circles and the media. For instance, the mayor of Berlin described the speeches as an intolerable relativization. Wow. Oh, wow. The full responsibility lies with homos. And she came out with this glorious response. I didn't clap for the filthy Palestinian.
Yeah, I didn't clap for the other co-creator of that movie.
This is
I just
unreal,
clapped for one of
right?
them, and I based it off where they were born, whether they were born on the right side of a border.
Every aspect of this story is bad, apart from the two brave Israeli and Palestinian, the duo that made the speech, who made a film called a documentary, No Other Land, which charts the eradication of Palestinian villages in the West Bank. By the way, a lot of Jewish people have been caught up in this, where they're getting censored in the West for expressing their beliefs about what's happening in Israel. Because
I
it's
would
not the
say
beliefs that are glorious Western leaders in their infinite wisdom have
precisely,
decided. Yeah.
precisely.
Yeah. Okay. So after we've descended into the bizarre at this point,
Let's exit the bizarre
let's find an
and
exit
go
strategy.
European right.
And I mean, European right, but it has finally happened. And we had to mention it because we've been chartering this Sweden's long journey to joining NATO.
First,
And
we had to convince
the
Hungary,
Sultan, the
and then
Sultan,
it
yeah.
was the Sultan or the opposite, whatever.
Last man standing, the great Viktor Orban, who I think
Strongest
Tiger,
man in all
strongest
of
man
Europe.
alive, strongest man in Europe easily.
Yeah.
And I think recently Tiger came out and called him, whatever we think of him, he's a very smart guy. And I mean, who are we to dispute Orban's infinite wisdom in now?
145 IQ points right there.
100%. And he has finally approved Sweden joining NATO. What do we think? What do we think? What do we think, Luigi? The big boy has relented.
Welcome, Sweden. The
Welcome.
Sultan got like in exchange for allowing Sweden in, they gave him like a deal on
Did he get a
jet
couple of
fighters.
cards? I thought he got a
Or,
couple of cards.
he might have gotten a few kills too, but mostly jet fighter deals
Yeah.
that had been suspended because
Do we
of
know what
his.
Hungary got from Sweden? They must have gotten
No,
something.
there must have been something like Viktor does not yield randomly.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out what Hungary got.
Coming soon.
What Viktor has been blackmailing them for. He's got some money from the EU. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what the great negotiator has achieved. But anyway, sucks for Russia, I guess, is the conclusion.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
move on.
Mitch, the great
The most
Mitch
evil turtle alive
that has ever existed.
Excuse me.
Cast
In all
out by
the
the Turtle
multiverses.
Clan. Cast out by the Turtle Clan. They didn't want him. He was too evil.
Yeah, and we had to end up at the point where I don't know, he's clearly in mental decline while in office. It is really sad, man. Maybe some mechanism sort of avoid this. It's pretty sad to see.
Yeah, he had a few freezes. That's what you're mentioning. He had a few freezes the past year. So, I mean, they look pretty bad as well. But I mean, should we? This is the man. This is the man, basically responsible for
all the bad shit in your life.
for a lot of the bad shit in your life, but I would say most emphatically, he's basically the one responsible for what has happened to the Supreme Court. Basically, he's the one responsible for the super majority of conservatives now in charge. He's the one who had denied the Obama nomination. So I mean, he's the one responsible for the constitution, for the current super conservative constitution of the Supreme Court. So I mean, kudos to him. He's retiring. He will step down.
After having done permanent damage as the leader of the opposition, or longest serving Senate leader, rather.
In history.
Wow. It's a little complicated. Like Mitch McConnell represents all of the, let's call it, evil special interests. But like you saw some glimpses of when Trump was in office of like Mitch softly trying to rebel on a few stuff. But yeah, for the most part, I think it just represents the core of what it means to be a completely sold out Republican.
I would agree. The evil turtle goes away. I mean, we'll see what's going to happen. We'll see who they'll replace him with. Jon Stewart.
Actual turtle. Let's put an actual turtle in his stead.
An actual turtle would be a great improvement. So
seriously, an actual turtle will vote correctly 50% of the time.
100%, and it's far
Mitch
better.
Is gonna vote on the wrong side 100% of the time.
It's far better than Mitch has ever done in the Senate. So I mean, adios, Mitch. Go to fucking hell.
Sayonara, Mitch.
Sayonara. And before we finish, Luigi, I want your thoughts now that we've done. I mean, what's going to happen with Trump, the court cases, possibly right before the election, possibly happening during the election, possibly they're going to pause the trial that day and carry on afterwards, possibly finishing right before. So you've got that, and then you've got
possibly
Jack.
Pardoning himself, even if there's
Even if
case that makes it after the election.
Even if they convict, yeah. And then you've got Jack and what's been happening, the uncommitted votes. So what do you think? What do you think? What do you think now? You said 80% Trump?
Yeah, it's still 80% Trump. The only reason Trump doesn't win this election is legal. Like, absent something that will land him in jail before November, which apparently is not going to happen. So, look, like, is there a universe where somehow the process is expedited and
the process is going to be the most likely possibility is that the trial is going to be taking place. It's going to start before the election, but close to it. That's the most likely possibility. There's a possibility that it finishes before the election. There's a possibility that it finishes after the election.
If it's after the election, Trump has this in the bag. Like, opinion polls are very clear. And if anything, opinion polls tend to underestimate Trump most of the times. Like, if you judge by previous elections. So Trump has a magical ability to defy the pollsters.
We've gone through his last 3-4 showings in the primaries, and he did underperform.
Yeah, in the primaries. So.
I mean, yeah. General election is not looking good for Biden. Favorability is not looking good for Biden. And Biden doesn't, I don't know. We'll see.
Biden is 4 points less favorable than Trump, and he's the sitting president. I mean, that's terribly unpopular. That's historically unpopular. So it's going to take a miracle for Jack to pull this off at this point. So I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, maybe Trump lands in jail before that, but that's also looking very slim in terms of chances. So going to go with Trump. I think he's going to win this, and I think we're going to see some really weird, like, legal fireworks along the way.
It's going to be insane whatever happens. Let's end on that, Luigi.
Nice. Excellent. See you next week.
See you next week, guys. Bye-bye.